Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday of Comic-Con at home. Once again, I'm here with my good friend, Jeff Tingley. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing good.
I got to say, I can see you in this video a lot more than in the previous two.
Yeah, sunlight does that.
I think it's really admirable that you were willing to put on all the sunscreen so that you didn't evaporate in the wicked sun.
I'm still just one cup of coffee in though, so
Okay. All right. So, though I actually like to think that today's video would be semi-reflective of the way we would feel normally at San Diego Comic-Con after a week of all this stuff. You'll notice I'm a lot less shaven than I was in the first video. Got this scrape on the right by my eye here that probably would have come from a fight with a cosplayer or a disgruntled customer of some sort. You know, lots of things happen at Comic-Con.
yeah, yeah. We normally don't talk about those.
But here we are. So anyway, like we've been doing a video a day, and so I'm really excited to do a follow-up to yesterday's video, which was the genesis and development of fan favorite character who is spreading wide in popularity across the entire internet at this point. All right, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but of course we're talking about, who are we talking about, Jeff?
Mr. Panther.
Mr. Panther, star of the untitled web series that is in production by me and Jeff Tingley. And can you give everybody again a little background about who Mr. Panther is and what the general storyline of this webcomic is going to be?
Yeah. So the seed for this was, think of all of the things that you thought were cool at like the ages 12 to 16, and if you got to be that, but
Which
now
would be
you're
awesome at the time.
right, but now you're like in your mid 30s, and you've had to live with that choice.
Just like, what if that choice was, I'm a human panther?
Correct.
And so last video, and you had never done any character design for this character before last video, right? I'm clear on that?
Right. We just talked about, what would be funny about it and wanted to make sure it felt like a character we would create at that age.
Exactly. So why spend any other time, Jeff? Let's see what you've done. Last time we saw just some rough updates. Let's see what Mr. Panther looks like today.
Yes. My mouse behaves. Here we go.
Oh, check that thing out. And I want to just kind of talk about for a second before you go into discussing this character and how you went from those roughs to this much more polished and colored finished drawing, that this is an example and this is an experience that everyone who comes by the Rare Earth comic booth at San Diego Comic-Con often gets, where they give us a random character. Sometimes it's something like Superman or Daredevil or Wonder Woman, but sometimes it's Mr. Panther or a weird character they've just kind of come up with. And you get to watch the progression, sometimes in less than 40 minutes, of going from a rough pencil outline to this finished product. So I'm going to stop talking, Jeff. I'm going to let you talk about how you got to here.
All right. Actually, can I do this?
Yep.
So,
right. Oh, look at that. That's so cool.
I did some quick sketches on like just poses and shapes and everything, and actually referenced real panthers, which made me, from the last video, drastically change the shape of his head. And it wasn't until I got to building up like a standing up form here that I started to get a real feel for him and decide to move on over to this page.
Very cool.
And one of the things that really helped me is the decision to, like, for example, not give him such a short squat head, but to actually give him one big brow that starts between his eyes but goes all the way to the top of his head, and then to make the top of his head also the form for the back of his neck, so he's got that big powerful panther neck.
Mm-hmm.
To make him feel more cat-like, I decided to really extend his torso like from where the abs are down and really stretch that out. Which then I decided as he's putting on clothes, like what kind of clothes would be comfortable. And he's going to wear oversized Hawaiian shirts, which will always be too short for him. And he's got to go with cargo shorts with a hole cut out for the tail.
And another thing that's so cool about looking at this are all the little details that you've thrown in, you know, even in just an initial thing. Talk about the things like the pads on the hands and everything like that.
So, you know, it's human cat panther. Like, we're talking about what's going to be cool as a kid, but at the same time, kind of getting his way as an adult. So it was, how far do I take the hands? You know, do I give him full cat paws and literally take away his opposable thumbs? Or do we do something more? And I decided he's got mostly human hands, but instead of like, you know, cat claws with like the claws coming off the fingernails, we're going to give them to him like cat claws. They're going to come out from in between.
And that's amazing. Like that was a detail that I completely did not expect. And yeah, and it makes so much sense when you actually think about it, at least from a design standpoint. And that was a detail that really drew me.
Yeah. And they're not like huge Wolverine claws, because that also doesn't make sense for the way that we're doing this. Yeah. You know, and then therefore you could see in the little thing like he's always got the claws visible coming out between, and those might occasionally catch on things. But then like I'm looking, you know, the cat bean toes that you have, and you're, you know, oh, look at the little beans. And I wanted to give those pads those little beans there. Mm-hmm. And I decided for fingertips, they were just at the end of the fingertips.
It's amazing. And we talked about this actually in one of the previous videos with Carl Mefford, where David Robles interviewed Carl and I about the series Dr. Atlantis. And a thing that I had forgotten was how much just the design work that Carl did completely informed how I wrote the story. There's an anecdote about how I had written the first like 60 to 70% of Dr. Atlantis issue 1, chapter 1 of the first book. And then I saw some monster designs Carl was done, and I threw it all away. And I just restarted from scratch. And I'm going to relate that experience to here. In writing this story, I mean, we've just had the most basic of discussions on who these characters are. We barely have even touched on personality. And it's not till I'm looking at this character that I've gotten a feel for how I would write him. You know, I had a different idea just like percolating in my mind of a kind of beaten down, sad, pot belly kind of, guy who's just like totally beaten down by this horrible choice he made when he's 12. And I'm not abandoning all of those concepts, but now that I've seen what you've drawn with this character, I love the fun of him. The kind of lackadaisical go-lucky character here. And now it makes me much more excited for how to draw it. Sometimes when you're a writer, you can't really know these characters till you see what they're going to look like.
Right. And what's fun is I think you can still go with that, because I think it's interesting. Like, I chose the oversized Hawaiian shirts because what else is going to fit him?
Yep.
And it makes him look like a party boy. But the fact that even these don't fit him is sad.
And the cargo shorts are just such a great addition.
Right. Well, I figured it had to be shorts in general because his backwards legs, you can't put him in jeans.
Yeah.
Skinny jeans would be ridiculous.
Though actually seeing Mr. Panther try to be in modified skinny jeans would actually be pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
So Jeff, what I'm going to say right now, because I know we don't have too much time, is so you did Mr. Panther from scratch and just from some basic concepts we have. But this is something you do all the time, especially when you're doing commissions at a show. I want you to talk a little bit about what are the universal things you always have to do. What was your basic process for putting this character together? And I know things like you lay out the basic shape, but you went from nothing
Right.
to a finished product that is a usable character. So if you could talk to me about your steps, I think that'd be really interesting to everybody.
Yeah. And go back to this, where this is just free-forming ideas. I knew just about everything on this page was going to be thrown away. You know, as I'm shaping the head, I'm like, nope, that head shape's not right. And I'm playing with it in different things. And it wasn't until I started standing him up and got like this S curve to his body that I started to get ideas more shaped into my head. So when I go back to this, originally as I was drawing this, and I'm like, I need to stretch him out. And I wish you could see this step. I didn't have enough room on the page, so I just did, you know, the nifty thing that digital is good for. And I lassoed him with a select tool and shrunk him and moved him. And
Don't you wish you could do that at a show?
yes. And did that a couple times until he was the proportions that I wanted. This is all just getting those very rough shapes onto here. Like you can see the toes are really just a series of circles. I'm not saying they're much better in the other, because it's also worth noting with the final product, he's much brighter colored than I would use in the comic. But I wanted to make sure the colors were red at this stage, so when I go back to color him later, I'm not wondering, is it a purple, is it a black?
Yeah.
Right. So I got this stage done, and I go from there. Oh, I need to reference a hand better. I swear there was another cleanup stage between that and this. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So I go from those sketches to just overlaying and cleaning up just a little bit more. And then when I hit it with inks, I cleaned it up even more from there.
Yeah, can we see the inks again?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
We'll get rid of the pencil marks underneath, which is why I love digital.
And at a show, unless you got something in full color, this would be the commission you would have gotten. It would have been incredible. So you've got, and when you were inking, what were you trying to think about?
So for character design, I'm just trying to make the lines clean so that you can see what they are. I do a little bit of shading in here so that, you know, you can see where the shadows are going to fall. But honestly, I didn't even make him as dark or as shadowy as I wanted to, because I wanted you to see the forms so that later when I'm building his forms again, I'm not hiding it all in shadow.
Understood.
So that's why his shading on this is very minimal. It will probably be more so later. And playing with little things like, what is the texture going to look like on his nose and lip? You know, and I wanted to give that cat skin texture. I said Hawaiian shirts, so shirts will probably always have a design on them, but I didn't feel it was necessary at this point.
Sure.
To put a design on, because he's not going to be in like one Hawaiian shirt the entire series.
Yeah. Now, a question I have for you, Jeff, is since you're going to be having to draw these Hawaiian shirts, are you going to be able to just copy a pattern?
Probably not.
Oh, that's too bad.
Right.
The magic of digital to be helping you out there. It just reminded me of what you know, a artist from Marvel once said to me, which was the greatest tragedy of Spider-Man is having to draw the web design 1,000 times an issue.
Yep. And I might be able to, but right now I'm not confident enough that I'm good enough yet at digital to do it and hide the seams.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like.
Sure. So, okay, so we have the inks here, and then you went to color. And what's your steps for that?
Well, these colors are very basic. They're not like what I would do in another drawing, because
they're flat colors.
They're flat colors. I did not include any shading or anything. Uh, and I gave him the purple in part because, you know, when I think Panther, one of the things I think of is Skeletor's cat.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Um, so I gave him the purple and the blue so that I could both shade those and they'd still look like black when I went heavy with shading.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, otherwise than that, just what the things are inform the color.
Awesome. So let's get one more full look at this bad boy right here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Panther. Let's get the t-shirts made up. All right, Jeff, you want to kill share screen for a second?
Yes.
Well, Jeff, we're about at the end here, and this is the last day of Comic-Con at Home. I just want to say it's been great working with you this week and for all of these years. And we're not getting the Comic-Con experience that we normally get, but, you know, hey, COVID takes no prisoners in this way. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Although it has been great seeing like all the likes on Facebook and like the people dropping by and leaving comments. And that helps feel a little bit like when they stop by the booth.
It really does. It really does. So, Jeff, I say thank you, but I'm not saying goodbye because we're going to be working on this series and all the other Rare Earth Comics stuff nonstop as soon as Comic-Con's done.
Yes.
Yeah. If you haven't, and I know many of you have, go to rareearthcomics.com and buy Jeff's book, Heretic X1. You can also get the digital copy of Heretic X2 premiering at this virtual show. And there's still time to do commissions. So if you want Jeff to draw you a Mr. Panther, let's go for it right now. Jeff, thank you so much. You have a great day, buddy.
All right.
All right. Happy Comic-Con, everybody.